Good morning, everyone. How are you doing this morning? Hopefully, you all had a nice and refreshing weekend and you are ready for and inspired by another week of studying and teaching. Today, my morning message is about the International Day of Democracy. In democracy, who holds the power in principle? Is it the religious leaders, the political leaders, the economic leaders, the educational leaders, the cultural leaders, or the celebrities? Actually, none of the above. Regardless of how the state of democracy to us today. In principle, the ultimate source of power in democracy are the people. Yes, the ordinary citizens of each democracy. And of course, every school, including ours, is a mini democracy if the surrounding society or a country has a political system as ours fortunately does. So, how do we, the people, use our power? We have a right to vote in free and fair elections. Here at school, you have a right to vote in elections for the class officers and then the SCB, the Students Coordinating Board, and then no one pressures you to vote for a certain candidate. You make the decision as students yourselves. And thus it is in the world of adults as well. So none of us has to vote for the same candidate, party, coalition, or movement as his or her parents, spouse, partner, brother, sister, other relative, or even a close and dear friend. Every voter can vote according to his or her conscience on the ballot. We can consider asking some trustworthy people to become candidates instead. However, we have a right to become candidates ourselves as well. If we prefer to be independent candidates who don't belong to or are not on the candidate lists of any party or electoral alliance, we can even do that. Although we will probably have to gather enough signatures to be official candidates. Express our opinions orally, in writing, and digitally. And here at school, there are a number of elective courses that the students can choose, and it's possible also during one's studies to change a few elective courses in certain grades. But of course, the responsibility is then to stick to the courses that you have chosen and to work hard in order to deserve the grades that you want to get. Of course, we must use appropriate language in so doing. If we want to petition the government or other authorities, we can do that. Interestingly enough, all of us who know the basics of digital devices can become amateur bloggers or internet diary entry keepers or filmmakers. We can even publish our books, songs, poems, and other artworks online. If we are concerned about our own discussions, peaceful demonstrations, and even proposed seminars and conferences, we can speak out freely against racism, xenophobia, threats, violence, discrimination, corruption, bribery, human trafficking, and other forms of injustice. Believers in democracy have said and done many noble things. In India, a lawyer and social and political activist named Mr. Mahatma Gandhi pursued democracy, human rights, equality, and a nonviolent path to independence. Only months before he was tragically assassinated by a fellow Indian and a fellow Hindu, albeit one of an extremist persuasion contrary to his, he saw his native land, India, become an independent country. In Australia, former Olympic champion and sprinter Kathy Freeman has launched her foundation to help her fellow Aborigines or Native Australians to have a chance to be sufficiently educated and to have fulfilling careers. In South Africa, the country's first black president, the late Mr. Nelson Mandela, forgave his white enemies and supported the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. In Germany, the late President Johannes Rau strongly defended democracy, and tolerance, and genuinely apologized to Israel and the Jews for Germany's role in the Holocaust. In Canada, the Chinese-born pro-democracy activist Ms. Shen Shui continues to help and encourage her fellow Chinese in their brave fight for democracy. In Brazil, filmmaker Petra Costa has produced a documentary, The Edge of Democracy, to encourage her fellow Brazilians to oppose any moves to limit or abolish that country's hard-won democracy. Here in the Philippines, democracy was restored after a period of authoritarian rule in 1986. And South Korea, after many years of struggle, transitioned fully to democracy in 1993. Worldwide, the struggle for freedom and democracy continues. According to the website ourworldindata.org, there were 99 democracies and 80 authoritarian countries in 2018. Fortunately, there are brave pro-democracy activists, even in the strictest dictatorships. One example includes Europe's most autocratic country, Belarus or White Russia, where there have been weeks of protests following rigged presidential elections, who dare to constructively criticize the dictators and organize petitions and demonstrations. In closing, let us work together for freedom and democracy without forgetting our duties and responsibilities. To modify the farewell words of former French President Mr. Valéry Giscard d'Estaing back in 1981, and in these difficult times when dictatorship roams and strikes in the world, I hope that God watches over democracy for its happiness, for its good, and for its greatness. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful and blessed new school week ahead.